happy 10th birthday to your
Thank you.
beautiful, terrifying, highly disturbing baby. They grow
I
up,
watched it again for the first time in 10 years
yeah,
last week, and that was kind of crazy, but good.
yeah. Well, I'll ask you then, how do you think it holds up?
Oh, don't ask me. You have to ask audiences. But
Yeah,
we have had really great houses, so maybe that's some indication. People seem to
yeah.
want to see it still.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start a little vague, like if you don't mind. Like, what has it been from? You haven't been obviously watching the movie on an annual basis, but But you've been aware of the stature of this film. I'm sure how it's grown over the past 10 years. What's it been like watching your baby turn into such a horror classic these past 10 years?
Well, I think to be honest, because I've been trying to birth other babies,
Yeah.
I haven't really been focused on it. It's only been sort of in the last few months that I've realized, wow, 10 years and people, still seem interested in watching it and it's still relevant. It's really amazing to me to have made a film that I hoped someone would see and have it be enduring 10 years later. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's been so many great reactions and memes, and I want to dig a little bit into that. I mean, have you had any sort of favorite responses to the film over the years?
I have actually. I've had not so much of late, but certainly in the first few years when it came out and people were discovering it,
Mhm.
I had, some very moving responses of, people who'd lost loved ones or, one young man whose dad died when he was very young and his mum had to bring up three boys on her own, and how much the film meant to him as a result of that. Things like that. And even lately, like in the last week at the screenings, people coming up and sharing what the film means to them and, for it to be having personal resonance. You can only dream of doing that as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
No, and I've had it with Nightingale as well. I think it's it's obviously a tougher film in many ways, but also I've had such beautiful sort of responses, personal responses. Yeah.
Mhm. Are
And that's
people?
why I do it. That's why I make films, is to try and reach people
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that way.
for sure. I mean, are you seeing people in costume at these screenings?
Well, I was very disappointed because they were encouraged to go in costume last night. We were at a Vidiot screening, which was really a packed house, but I think people were a bit too shy.
Okay.
But I did have in New York, the very brave and wonderful, sexy Babadook got out. It was a young guy with a mask and fishnets, and it was so cool. Yeah,
I
so
mean, one reaction, and I'll hit on a few here, but the one that always sticks out to me, and I'm sure you saw it, and I love her, is I've gotten to meet her a few times. Screenwriter Katie Dippold, uh,
yeah,
her tweet about her photo dressed up at the Halloween party where
yeah.
everyone else was just in plain clothes drinking wine.
Yeah. So that was for real, was it? That no one bothered dressing up except her.
Yes, it was amazing, and then that
I
took
think,
on a life of its own.
Katie, I think that shot sort of is emblematic of my life.
How you feel?
I feel like I'm walking through life like that.
Did you hear the Billie Eilish song "Bury a Friend"? Supposedly,
I did. I met Billy and we were going to work together. It didn't eventuate, but yeah, yes, that I was aware of how much the film has the impact it's had on her, which is amazing because for any artist to sort of influence or inspire, I should say,
Mhm.
another artist is just again, it's an incredible honor, you
Yeah,
know. I mean,
yeah.
she's so extraordinary, and yeah,
Did that song like automatically go on a playlist somewhere?
for me,
Yeah,
I love her work. I've listened to a lot of her stuff.
yeah,
Um, she's equally inspiring to me, and just very obviously very special human.
yeah.
Incredible.
And Mr. B's also become an LGBTQ icon.
Has he?
Yes. Yeah. You don't know. Are you
Oh,
not aware of this?
I'm only joking. I'm
Yeah. Okay.
joking.
Okay. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
okay. They call it the Baba discourse, right? As they
yeah.
yes. Like what did you make of that as it was
I
unfolding?
think I don't know. Like, I think it's amazing and crazy. I was confused at first. I thought, what's going on? And then
Yeah.
I realized now I love it. I think, there must be something in the film. I know it's a joke, but a meme usually only lasts, or a joke usually only lasts 24 hours on the internet. So
Yeah.
there must be something in that character that
Yeah.
people have grabbed onto, which is fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I don't want to keep rehashing them to you. So many amazing reactions to the film with you. William Freakin,
Oh,
it was the
that
scariest film he'd ever seen.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was a very, very special one for me. And I was so sad when he passed away. And he wrote to me personally and
oh,
invited me to LA, and I never took him up on it. And I feel sad about that. I should have embraced that moment.
oh,
And because he's not just The Exorcist. I mean, a lot of his films, he was such an extraordinary filmmaker.
yeah, icon, yeah,
He
yeah.
did a he did a screening. I don't know what. I'm going to check out what cinema it was at in LA, but he organized himself an intro to a screening of the Babadook.
Really,
Yeah, in LA when it came out, which is just mind-blowing, right?
that's
It's
amazing. That's an
Yeah.
ultimate compliment. Yeah, I mean, what can you say about the origins of this beautiful monster? Like, where and how did you first envision him? Like the manifestation of the actual Babadook.
Yeah, it was very much. I mean, people have talked a lot about grief with this film. It wasn't, I want it. It wasn't as conscious as me wanting to tell a story about grief. I'm never that sort of calculated. I feel that I start an idea with a deep sort of feeling about something, and I'd lost my dad at the time, and I was grieving, and I thought, wow, this is really exhausting, actually, and amongst other things, it requires a commitment to do it. And I thought, what if, I'm a very feeling person. I'm quite emotionally brave. And I thought, what if someone wasn't able to do this? Like, what would it do to them? What would it do to their bodies and their minds? And that's how the Babadook kind of came into being, because I thought it's not really a film about grief. It's a film about suppressing emotion, which happens to be grief. And then in this case, I felt like this, that Amelia would press down on it so much that it splits off and becomes another energy. And that's what the Babadook is for
Mm,
me.
mm. I loved hearing that. Yeah, I wanted, it's always a tricky line. You never want to ask a filmmaker to like explain their art, but there has been so much analysis of it over the years, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think, I mean, Babadook uh, and the Nightingale are being taught in schools in like at uni in Australia, which is
Oh,
really, again, very surprising to me, but I'm very happy for it. I think for young people, especially who want to make films, it's so important to sit down and watch films they like or even dislike and try and dissect what is it about them that makes them what they are.
mhm,
you know.
mhm.
But I
Yeah,
think also everyone should have their own idea of what a film means to them.
sure. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. How would you say, if you can think back to sort of this film's origins and, putting pen to paper or keypad to final draft,
Yeah, yeah,
how did it like, how do you remember it sort of changing, because every film goes through multiple iterations, no
yeah.
matter the scale. How do you remember this one sort of changing the most dramatically from, say like the first draft you completed to what we ultimately see on the screen?
Well, my process is I mean, everyone's process is different, but I tend to do a lot of changes in the outlining stage. And the reason for that, I want to, before I get in and write dialogue and characters and fall in love with scenes too much, is I want to understand the mechanism. So I outline heavily,
Mhm.
and I can spend months doing that. And then the changes occur a lot in the outlining.
Mm.
And they don't, and then I'll write a first draft. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's not perfect, but maybe I'll write like 2, 3, 4 drafts after that, but they're not wildly different because the huge changes I've made when I'm building the house, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I find what happens, and I've noticed this when I'm working with other writers, is they keep changing the script so many times wildly, and you should, in my opinion, you shouldn't have to do that. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel a script should be pretty solid at draft one.
Mhm. Mm.
Yeah. I mean,
I,
it'll still be shit and too long, but yeah, that I guess that's what changes is it becomes leaner, more focused. Yeah.
mm. I hear that. You know, yeah, I write as well. And when people ask, like, are new to screenwriting, that's usually the first thing I'll say is outline the hell
Yes.
out of this because
Yeah.
because I didn't do that for my first couple of scripts and they were disasters. You know, you just
Yeah. And then you
start
think,
writing.
why aren't they working?
Yeah.
Why isn't this working? You know, and it's yeah, if I can, I mean, if any young screenwriter is reading this, it's like do all the work, build the foundations properly, and
Yeah.
then you won't have to keep knocking the house over and building it again.
Right. And so there's a reason like architects work off a blueprint and not
Yes.
just a
Yeah.
vision of what the house should
Yeah.
look
Yeah. And my outline contains scenes. Sometimes I'll put them on the wall as well. I'll shift them around so I can see it from afar and I can see the sort of rhythm of it.
like. Mhm.
And then also in outlining, I will write, like if I'm doing a detailed outline before I start writing the script, I write out each scene like a chapter or like a novel.
Mhm.
And then I know exactly what's going on in the scene. So yeah, you would know, it's such a detail. Writing's the most important thing.
100%.
So it's more important than directing, I
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't direct a turd.
And that is the pull quote for this interview. You cannot direct.
That's the
Yeah. Yes.
the winning prize quote.
Right. But no, you do hear that, right? Like you can make a bad movie from a good script, but you cannot make a good movie from a bad script.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. But the direction on this film is really awesome too.
Oh, thank you.
To you know to every detail and like including the sound design. I mean, the Babadook's noises will like stay in your head for days after watching this movie.
Oh,
How did you what was that process like
oh,
and
thank
sound
you. I mean, I love sound. It definitely is 50% or more
Mhm.
of a film, like 50% of any film, but more maybe for horror, you
Yeah.
know, because the scares actually come from the audio, I feel. And in restraining, you know, pulling back. But we had as much time in the shoot, sorry, in post on sound as we did on picture. And
Mhm.
we kept, you know, I kept calling Christina, the producer, and saying, can we have another week, please, please? We really need it. And, you know, she graciously sort of found that time.
Mhm.
Um, it's just so important to experiment,
Yeah.
you know, because with horror, you might spend a day and you look at it and you think, that's not scary. That sound is not scary. And then you have to wipe it out and start again. And then
Mhm.
you say, oh, that's scary. You
Mhm.
know, so it's trial and error in a way.
Yeah, and another thing the film has gotten a lot of love for over the years is, you know, it never falls back on jump scares, never relies on jump scares. It's really pure character fear and anxiety because it feels so true to life in that way. Did you have to? Did you ever have to reel back? Did you ever have to like resist? You know, putting in a jump scare, like more jump
I
scares?
think there's a couple,
Yeah.
and I have no problem with jump scares if they're integrated into the fabric of the film and they're meaningful. But yeah, it's a cheap shot. I mean, we all know that. Even if someone comes up and goes, "Ugh," and you go, ah, and you know, your tea goes everywhere or whatever. It's a cheap shot. Like you will get scared, but then you feel cheated.
You feel a little
So
afterwards.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's moments where the Babadook comes down onto sort of drops down and things like that. Uh, but hopefully they're integrated, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, And yeah, I tried to avoid the horror cheap shots.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, some people might call this a perfect horror movie. Some people have absolutely called it that. But filmmakers are always their own biggest critics. You've just watched the film for the first time in 10 years, I think you said. I
Yeah.
mean, are there things? Is there anything you would change if you did it again?
I'm sure that there are. Yeah, I'm sure that there are. But for me as a filmmaker, I've written 7 scripts in the last 3 years. I'm
Mhm,
trying to get one of those at least made. So that's really my focus, is being in the present and improving on the work through new work.
mhm.
And that's we're very, very close to a deal now, which is super exciting on this
Right.
film for next year. So I'm focused on developing my work through that.
Mhm.
And I feel happy with where I left Babadook and Nightingale and The Murmuring, which is, the thing I did with Guillermo for Netflix.
Yeah,
And these, yeah, it's very important for an artist not to look back, I
yeah,
think.
I hear
I mean,
that.
apart from enjoying this re-release, but then then that's it.
Moving forward,
Move
yeah.
forward.
Can you say, is the piece that you said you're close to a deal on, is that something you've already shot or written, or can you say, is there anything you can say about
Yeah, I can say that it's by an author that I adore, who I've met here while I've been in LA,
that?
and I love him, and I'm so excited about this work, which is an adaptation of one of his books.
Okay.
And yeah, it should come out in the next week.
Oh, the
Uh,
news. Okay.
yeah, the news.
Okay.
So
Where are you in the process?
deal making.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we've got all the pieces in place. So as soon as it's in place, I'm gonna megaphone it to the world.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, one thing you have not done, and from what I understand, you have no intention of doing, is ruining the Babadook with the sequel.
Yeah, I'm not doing a sequel. I'm not doing a sequel. I think if there was a reason to, I'm not trashing sequels. I think there are some films that lend themselves to more films, but this isn't one of them. So yeah, it would have been again another cheap shot from me, I feel,
Yeah.
uh, to make money. And I think when you get into filmmaking to make money, that's very cynical.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
not my.
I hear that and respect the hell out of it. Uh,
Thank you. It
and
makes
you
me poorer. It makes me poorer, but that's okay.
Yes, yes, but more respectable.
Yes, I can sleep at night.
That's right. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I really appreciate your time and really great to meet you today.
Oh, likewise. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having a chat.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll chat on your next one.
Yes, yes, for sure.